Well, hello everyone, and welcome to this very special bonus live stream this beautiful Saturday. This is Andreas and René. We're going to be talking lightning, and on this side of me, René Picard, my good friend, co-author, and our honored guest for today.
Hi everyone.
Can we hear you, René? Say hello. No, you're muted.
Oh, no, I'm not muted. I can hear me. So if you don't hear me, then it's on your side.
Oh, let's see. Got to figure this out. Oh, that's a pity. I can't hear you anymore.
That's really bad.
Now I can hear you.
Okay, perfect. Hi, Andreas. So technology in Corona times, right? Still not. Everything worked so good before.
Well, welcome all. René and I are going to spend 2 hours with you today, approximately 2 hours. We've got lots of great things in store. We're going to start by talking about some interesting topics, giving you an update on the book, talking about the Lightning Network and some interesting ideas around the Lightning Network. Then we're going to go to the Q&A, and you can see at the bottom of the screen here, right there. You can see #LN questions. That's the code. Use that code on slido.com to ask your questions. And feel free to go there now and start asking questions, even though we're not going to start the Q&A right away. Now, keep in mind, we're only probably going to be able to do about a dozen questions. We will run out of time, and we already have lots and lots of questions because my Patreon subscribers and YouTube members have been hammering the Slido now for more than a week. So if you see a question that is close enough to the question you want asked, then vote that question up. This is a bit of strategic voting, people. Do not ask the same question in a slightly different, but obviously much more eloquent way. Because what you'll end up doing is splitting the votes, and then your question will not get answered. The question that was similar to it will not get answered. Instead, vote for the one that's kind of good enough. That will give you a much better chance of having your question answered. And if you see other questions that are interesting, vote those up too. So that's how we're going to do the Q&A. Hit the Slido now, and we are almost ready to get started. Shall I show everybody the KAHOOT code again? What do you think, René? KAHOOT code?
Probably you could do this. I heard people saying that they don't know what KAHOOT is.
You don't know what KAHOOT is? Well, don't worry. KAHOOT is a game. It's a trivia quiz game. We're going to play it at the end of today's live stream in about an hour and a half. It's going to take about 30 minutes to play. It's going to be a lot of fun. There is no prize other than bragging rights if you win the leaderboard. But you get to win the leaderboard, plus it's going to give us some great topics to discuss. So that's what the KAHOOT is. In the meantime, ask your questions on Slido. Did you miss that code? Let me put it up again. A bit. I'll just leave it up there for a bit longer, so you can all jump on. You might find it easier to use a second device than the one you're watching this live stream on, perhaps your smartphone, because you will need to look at the question, which we're going to broadcast on YouTube here, and then answer it on a different device. You can't answer it on the same device. So it's usually easier to have two devices or two windows open and switching back and forth. So, René, I heard there's a network called Lightning. We're going to talk about this shit. What do you think?
It's one of the greatest technologies that I have encountered in my professional life. I guess that's one of the reasons why we're here and discussing this and why we're writing this book. Because if it was a boring technology, I wouldn't take the time and bother to write a book.
Well, yes.
Help writing a book, I should say. I mean, we're writing it obviously together.
Fascinating technology.
Yes.
What can you buy with Lightning? What could you possibly buy? Could you buy a pizza?
Well, so if you look at these headphones, I bought them on the last Lightning conference from another Bitcoiner.
Oh,
so
very nice.
I was looking for this kinds of headphones, and he said, "Oh yeah, I have a second pair." and I can sell them to you. So I bought them on the Lightning Network. So I guess you can buy a lot of things, and you showed at your mug, so I guess you can buy that too on the Lightning Network. I bought ice cream on the Lightning conference. That was awesome.
Oh, very nice. Yeah, definitely. That's a great use of the Lightning Network. So for those of you who don't know, we are writing a book. And we includes myself, Andreas and Antonopoulos. It includes the CTO of Lightning Labs, who's not here today, Alalu Ashtakan, also known as Roast Beef on the internet and on GitHub, and my dear friend René Picard. And the three of us are writing this book together. It's been delayed, of course, as all books are, but we're making slow and steady progress, and you can actually read it online and even participate by contributing. All of the information about the book is in the video description, so you will be able to find it. Just look below on YouTube in the video description and you will find it, but it's fairly easy to find actually. It's LN Book, Lightning Network book, LN Book. github.com/LN Book will take you right there, and you can both read the first 5 chapters that we delivered to our publisher as a first draft in September. And you can also read some of the other chapters that are currently in progress.
I just have to say I'm impressed that you are able to pronounce the last name of Lalu. I remember us both practicing this when we met with Lalu together.
Yes.
And I still call him Lalu and roast beef.
Yeah, indeed. But I've had quite a bit of practice. I'm probably still not getting it right.
I think it sounded quite good.
So so join us in this book. It's a collaborative effort. We've already got probably 30 or 40 contributors. Some of my previous books had more than 200 contributors by the end of it. And of course, if you do contribute to the book on GitHub, you also get an acknowledgement in the preface, which is part of both the online book but also in print. So you get to see your name in print if you want, and your GitHub ID as a thank you for contributing to the book. Contributing is easy. You don't have to be a Lightning expert to help us. Some of the contributions we get are as simple as, hey, I don't understand this. What does this mean? Or you didn't explain this very well. Can you please elaborate? Or when I read this, it created a new question in my mind that I want answered. Here it is. Or you misspelled this word. Very, very simple. Some people have made incredible contributions just fixing the fact that I apparently don't know how to use commas in English. And so all contributions, all technical levels are welcome. And you are the audience for this book. Someone who has a light technical foundation in Bitcoin, is interested in learning more, is trying to understand it, can certainly read at least the first 3 chapters comfortably and
Hopefully
learn something.
More.
Hopefully more, yes.
That's at least the goal, I would say, for me,
yes,
personally.
And until you get to routing and channel construction, at which point you might give up, but that's okay too. There's still value in the chapters that you can make through.
Yes.
So,
but, I mean,
what are we going to talk about today other than the book? I think you had some topics you wanted to talk about.
So I think we wanted to discuss how Lightning is perceived in the space in general, why there are challenges of players in the field adopting it or not adopting it. I think that's one of the topics, and maybe we just see how the discussion evolves and see the other topics that we're going to talk about.
Yeah, I think that's. Should we start by talking about what Lightning is?
Maybe we could do that, yes.
Yeah, maybe we should.
Oh,
I'm not going to go direct to questions, but we happen to have a question that's perfect specifically for that. So let's try out our amazing question platform. Danilo asks, can you please describe for a newbie in a few words what Lightning is and how it functions on top of Bitcoin?
Yeah, so the challenge here obviously is to explain it first in a few words and for a newbie.
Yes.
So my best attempt on doing that is, I would say it's kind of a payment system for Bitcoin, right? It helps people in general to use Bitcoin at a much quicker and more frictionless pace, if it works properly, right? I mean, the technology is of course new, and right now there might be some friction because the software doesn't have the best UI, but in general, the protocol allows you to use Bitcoin extremely quickly and extremely frictionless. Yes.
So fast payments, cheap payments, secure payments, and more private payments than you could do in Bitcoin. And I think it's important to say how much faster, cheaper, and more private Lightning is. So when you make a Lightning payment, first of all, you're still using Bitcoin. This is not a separate coin. This is not a fork. This is Bitcoin, but it's Bitcoin accelerated, if you like, fast as lightning. Now, you make a payment on Lightning, most of the time, you would scan a QR code like you do with Bitcoin, and you would scan that into a Lightning wallet, which is a variant of a Bitcoin wallet, and then you would hit pay. And if you're looking at the website that you're paying, and you take your eyes away and you look at the button and you press pay, and then you take your eyes back to the website you're paying, by the time your eyes go back, it's usually done. It's over. It literally takes less than a second in most cases. You will see it complete before you even take your eyes off the screen. So that's how much faster it is. And then you don't have to wait for confirmations. That's it. As soon as you hit pay and that payment is transmitted across the Lightning Network, that money is yours. Or if you're buying something, it's theirs. You've paid them. And it's done. Would you say that's an accurate?
Oh, it's very accurate. What I always say, but I didn't say it this time because I wanted to be like really, really newbie friendly. But maybe the other one is also newbie friendly, is I think it's a really cool way of using Bitcoin, the Lightning Network.
Right.
Because by the end of the day, we're just using Bitcoin, just in a very good way with predefined rules that enable us to do these extremely fast transactions that don't depend on on-chain confirmations in order to do those payments. So you see, I'm already starting to use a little bit more technical terms. That's why I kind of want to avoid that. But what you can keep in mind that the Lightning Network is just a cool way and a smart way of using Bitcoin.
Yeah. So how cheap is it? Well, your average payment will cost you less than 1,000 Satoshis. So that's 100,000th of a Bitcoin, or I believe that would be maybe less than a penny. And that's an expensive payment. A lot of transactions are 1/10 of a penny, sometimes even 100th of a penny. And I'm using US dollars just as a common reference that people don't understand. So even at a time when Bitcoin transactions might be $1, 20 cents, 50 cents, $1, or maybe even $2, because the network is congested, a Lightning transaction at that same time, when things are expensive on the Bitcoin chain, will still only cost you 1/10 of a penny. So we're looking at 3 orders of magnitude cheaper transactions, 3 orders of magnitude, possibly 4 orders of magnitude faster transactions.
So that's actually one of the things that brings me to one of our discussion points already. Because one thing that I could observe is that exchanges do currently not really support Lightning deposits or withdrawals. And it's something where I'm surprised that users are not demanding this and customers are not demanding this. Because there's certainly people who were playing around in the past doing arbitrage trading. And if you have to send your Bitcoins through on-chain transactions, especially in a moment when there's a lot of trading going on, I would assume that Lightning payments, well, are just much more comfortable for you, right? But apparently users are not demanding this, and exchanges in general are not implementing this right now. I mean, of course, there are some exchanges playing with this, and some exchanges have done this in a small way. But to me, it's actually really surprising that it's not happening at a larger scale.
I'm noticing on the chat that people are saying that it's difficult to hear you, René. So I'm gonna try and make some adjustments to the volume, which may cause your volume to get weird for a second. So if you could say something, tell us about privacy on Lightning.
Tell us about privacy. General question. Maybe it's good that I can't be here right now. So I think in general, people think that on the Lightning Network, there is better privacy than doing Bitcoin transactions on-chain. And me being a researcher and a scientist, I always take such statements with a lot of care, because a term like privacy is actually very hard to measure. But what we can certainly say is when you do an on-chain payment, it leaves some footprint on the blockchain, which is a public database that is shared by all the users. And when you reuse your addresses, or when you bundle your addresses to other data like your IP address or your identity, of course, I can see who was doing what with it, right? So for example, if you go to Andreas or mine fundraising page, you can actually see how many Bitcoin we received on the blockchain, right? So the privacy is screwed there. On Lightning, that's not directly true, because on the Lightning Network, when I send out a payment, we're sending it over a path of channels. The payment itself is decrypted. The nodes who are forwarding the payment do not see from whom the payment is coming and to whom the payment is going. And the payment itself doesn't leave an on-chain footprint. So in that sense, we can currently assume that the privacy is better on the Lightning Network.
Yeah. Thank you for doing that and answering that question while I was adding a compressor to your audio stream. That allowed me to increase the volume without making it clip. So you're coming in a bit louder now, which won't fix the fact that people are not liking your microphone, René. Which
is strange. We use it all the time when we do conversations, right?
I know. We have 290 people watching live now, and I think we'll get more people over time. Please cut René some slack. He's a data scientist, not an audio scientist. And this stuff is hard. It's taken me a good 3 years of doing this. I've tried 5 different mics, and I've actually had a professional audio engineer help me fine-tune everything. So, great. Very good. Excellent. So, it seems to be a bit better.
Some people are saying they can hear me, so
it's getting much better. All right. So, someone just said on the chat that Lightning really got very hyped a few years ago, probably because it was the default answer to the scaling debate, right? It got very hyped, and at the same time, the early stages of the Lightning Network were very, very difficult for users. So the user interfaces were very poor. Getting capacity in order to send and receive payments was difficult. The modalities are very different. And so you got a lot of kind of hype on one side. People mostly really talking about what the Lightning Network could become in the future. And I certainly am guilty of that. I see a vision of where it's going. And I talk about a very expansive vision of streaming money and much more privacy and much more speed. And then the first experience people have is of a very poor user interface. So that mismatch between the expectations and the hype and the actual experience, I think, has caused some people to be disappointed. So is Lightning really a solution to the scaling debate? I mean, is that the point here, or is it something different? So
let me go one step back before I answer that directly. I would say it's very easy in this community where there's a lot of fantasy and a lot of dreams and a lot of imagination to get really hyped and be like, oh yeah, there's this idea, and when it's done, and how quickly can we get this, right? But technology usually comes in pretty large development cycles.
Yes.
Right. And just because you have solved a problem and you kind of like know how the Lightning Network works, I mean, we kind of understand how payment channels and HTLCs work since, I don't know, 2013, 14, something like this. It takes time to get this done correctly. And I mean, this is also good because we want security.
Yeah.
That being said, the Lightning Network certainly is the solution to the scaling problem. If you open the Wikipedia article about scaling of computer systems, it talks about a system can handle more work. And Bitcoin is actually designed with a difficulty mechanism that it can't handle more work. Whenever there is more work, more computation in Bitcoin, the difficulty is get adjusted. So Bitcoin by design does not scale. People who are telling me, do big blocks, do larger blocks, or do smaller block times, they are missing a very crucial point about how such a distributed system is working. And Bitcoin in itself is designed in a way to not scale. So that is actually what got me into Lightning, because there I saw technology and said, wow, Bitcoin was designed with not scaling in mind, but here we can use it in this smart way, and now it scales. Now we can do as many transactions as we want. So this was really insanity to me.
I think the best way for people to understand why the Lightning Network changes the scaling equation is that in Bitcoin, on the main chain, every transaction has to be validated and reviewed by everyone, even before it gets to the miners, and then it has to be validated and recorded by the blockchain, and then it has to be sent out to be validated and reviewed as part of a block again by everyone. And this is for the security model, and it's to keep the network decentralized and create an environment where power and control can't be centralized. What the Lightning Network does is it makes it so that the vast majority of Lightning payments are not seen by more than the two participants who send and receive them, or the intermediary nodes that route them. So only a tiny subset of the entire network ever sees Lightning payments, and most of them see Lightning payments with a very limited perspective. They can see where it's coming from and where it's going, but they don't know who the sender and recipient are. That allows the network to scale, because if I send you 1,000 payments in a minute, but the only two computers that are involved in that, and the only network connection that's involved in that is the computer and the network connection between the two of us, that scales perfectly fine. And if you imagine 10,000 nodes doing that simultaneously, there really is no limit, because it's all about the computation and bandwidth between 2 points. And that scales a lot better than a system where everybody has to check.
So I did this just to convince myself that it's really working. So when I got into this space in 2018, I installed a Lightning node, and then I asked a friend to open a channel with me, and then we created a small script that would send 1 Satoshi back and forth in this channel all the time. And we could send this 1 Satoshi, I think something like 10 or 14 times in that channel per second, back and forth, right?
And that's not particularly fast. I'm guessing that a lot of that delay can be further optimized. 14 times a second isn't even the limit
sequentially
of performance. Exactly. Right. Yes. If you weren't waiting for that Satoshi to get to the other side, and you were just blasting Satoshis down the channel as fast as possible, I think you can get at least an order of magnitude better. And that's not even assuming any optimizations. So yes, we're talking about a whole other level of fast here.
But the thing is, I could still, within one block, do as many transactions between this friend and me of a single Satoshi, which you could also not transact on the blockchain. And nobody saw it. We were happy. Everybody was happy. It was just working.
Yeah.
Right. And of course, I could route this. So later we actually did the experiment again over hops of nodes. So we didn't have a direct channel, but we used the network and sent money back and forth just to see that it was working.
Yeah.
Now that was a very convincing story for me.
Well, you can immediately see that you're achieving a greater degree of scale. Now, here's the challenge. And already in the chat, someone was like, oh, if you use my coin, you can do lots and lots of transactions, more transactions than Bitcoin for 0 fees. Here's the thing. This is not simply about how much can you scale. We can change the parameters of Bitcoin and make it scale in a similar way. The real issue here is, what are the trade-offs when you do scaling in that manner? And so it's fairly easy to scale by making very specific trade-offs. These trade-offs include making it much more expensive for miners to operate, or changing the consensus algorithm from a proof of work to another consensus algorithm that has different characteristics and security trade-offs. It's also very easy to do under circumstances where not a lot of people have real-world uses and they're not competing for that space. So that's a bit like assuming that you're a very good sailor or a much better sailor while sitting on the deck of a ship that's anchored in the harbor, and laughing at the people who are out there in the middle of the ocean who seem to be having a much more difficult time with their sailing ability. You can't really see the trade-offs until you start trying these things at very big scale. And some of the trade-offs you don't see at all, because they're trade-offs in security and robustness that only become an issue when a government or a corporation or an ISP decide they want to shut you down. And one of the most important trade-offs here that, at least in Bitcoin, we are not willing to make is to reduce decentralization and the robustness of the system, make it easier to censor, easier to attack, easier to coerce the miners, easier to centralize, because that is the trade-off that's not worth it. If we want really, really fast centralized systems, listen people, both Visa and Facebook will eat your lunch and will do so much more successfully and much cheaper. That's the dumb trade-off to make. The point here is, can you get significantly more scale, speed, privacy, and low cost without sacrificing decentralization and robustness against attack? Can you do it while you're being attacked? And of course, the Lightning doesn't solve these problems, but it is one path that takes us closer to these solutions. And of course, it's still evolving. So let me just take a quick pause here. Why don't we drink some water and jump in the chat and see what's happening. I actually haven't seen a message in the chat for 10 minutes now. I don't know if my chat has frozen.
Oh, there's messages in the chat.
People stop chatting. What is happening, people? 300.
Well, there's a lot of stuff. There's a lot of stuff going on in the chat.
Oh, so my chat has frozen. I'm going to reload.
Yeah.
Well, there we go. Now I'm seeing things. What is happening? Now everybody's like, we're chatting, chat, chat. And lots of emojis flying by. All right, all right.
So are we on a break right now, or are we not? I'm confused now. I can't hear you. I
know I'm muted. René can hear me. Nobody else could hear me because...
No, I couldn't hear you either.
Yeah. Oh, you couldn't? Oh, very good.
No, that's why I was smiling, because you were like talking and continuing to talk, and I was like...
Yeah, well, that's probably because I have a really sensitive microphone, and if I don't do that, what ends up happening is you can hear me drinking, and it is very, very annoying. So you get this whole glug, glug, glug sound, which is not pleasant. So in any case, I got that in the comments of the YouTube, because you see, the thing is, if your microphone isn't good, people on YouTube will tell you. If your microphone is too good and they can hear you glugging, people will tell you. If you look slightly green, people will tell you. If the lights are wrong, people will tell you. If you speak too fast, people will tell you. In any case, no matter what you do, people will tell you.
I love the people on the chat actually noting that you have a drinking problem.
Yeah,
but luckily they put a smiley there, right? So
yes, very good. This is coffee, by the way. Although it would be funny if it was pizza juice.
Oh, yeah. Well, not so tasteful, I guess.
All right. So if you want to ask questions, everyone, please ask the questions on the Slido and not in the chat. So why don't we go to the next topic we want to talk about?
Sure.
One of the things that very, very early on I started talking to exchanges about was implementing Lightning channels in exchanges so that people could deposit and withdraw funds from an exchange using the Lightning network, which would allow not only much, much lower transaction fees, it would allow people to make smaller withdrawals. And I think you gave me a fantastic example of trying to implement the ultimate in dollar cost averaging, where you buy, I don't know, 10 cents a minute, every minute of every day, and immediately withdraw it over a Lightning channel. Yeah. Which is the kind of idea that starts giving you a glimpse into the possibilities that something like the Lightning Network opens up. I mean, because it seems ridiculous. In the traditional financial system, the idea of dollar cost averaging by buying once a minute a tiny amount. Now, you can do that on an exchange. The order books allow you to do that. Maybe on some exchanges they don't. They have a minimum buy for a fee, but whatever. And then withdrawing so that it's not on a custodial exchange account, but instead you get it delivered to you every minute through the Lightning Network. Now, these are possible. These things are possible, and yet no one's doing it. So let's talk about that. So first of all, why should exchanges implement the Lightning Network? Other than René said so. Which I think is also a very good argument.
Because I said so, yeah. That's a perfect argument. No, so it honestly, this discussion, it makes me a little bit angry, I have to say. It really does, right? So if you look historically what happened, and you can look this up in Bitcoin Talk, people were using Mt. Gox, right? That was basically the only exchange, so I read. And there was this guy on Bitcoin Talk who basically said, hey, why do we have to send our coins to Mt. Gox? Wouldn't it be better if we have something like a payment channel where we have a partially signed transaction? Of course, we have to adopt the software a little bit to support this. But in this way, Mt. Gox would basically only always get the coins that you're actually selling, right? So no coins in Mt. Gox's custody. And you read this post and you realize this was actually a unidirectional payment channel that led to the invention of the bidirectional payment channel that we're using in Lightning.
Yep.
Yeah, so people were discussing this, techies, in 2010, 2011, and then some years later, people got goxed, right? So what happened in between? Why was that not implemented? Right? So I'm looking at this and I'm like, wow, right? This is such a useful feature, right? We don't want this custodial risk at exchanges. And Lightning, or the basis of Lightning, were actually created at that time to reduce this custodial risk. So now when we talk about Lightning and exchanges, I think in today's world, it's a little bit different. I think exchanges are an on-ramp for people to use Bitcoin. So when you use Bitcoin for the first time, there is a pretty good chance that you actually just read on this on some forum. You don't know somebody who has Bitcoin, so you go to an exchange, you pay a few euros or dollars or Norwegian krona or whatever currency you just have, and you want to get your Bitcoins, right? So why would the exchange give you Bitcoins in a way that is not really useful? Why not on the Lightning Network? Because then you can actually transact with the Bitcoin more quickly. And I think the exchanges nowadays have more of a role of onboarding people to the right technology, because they are like a huge gatekeeper to some degree, right? And yeah, I think they should have the responsibility to at least supporting this technology.
Well, I mean, the other thing is that if you buy a small amount, and someone was commenting on that in the chat, they're like, just buy once an hour or once a day. What's the point in doing it every minute? The point isn't that. Clearly, I mean, that's an extreme scenario, which is really to demonstrate the coolness of the technology. But the real interesting thing is that if you are, especially if you are coming from a country where the cost of living is much lower, but the purchasing power is much lower, then the idea of being able to buy, I don't know, $10 a week is frightening. It's completely out of alignment with what you can achieve. So, you know, if you take, for example, the middle class or below in a country like India, where you've got lots of people living on, you know, $1, $2, maybe $3 a day. Maybe the middle class, of course, is better than that, but you're looking at that order of magnitude, then it's completely unreasonable to think you can buy $10. Now let's think about withdrawing that. If you withdraw that from an exchange, you've now created in your wallet, what, a $5, $10 UTXO. Well, the problem is that in many conditions, that is unspendable. If the fee ends up being 30%, 20%, 50% of your actual amount in your wallet, you can't actually use it. So it makes the Bitcoin that you bought kind of useless. You either have to wait and save up a lot more, which means you withdraw less often, which means the custodial problem becomes much worse, or you use Lightning. The thing is, if you withdraw $1 into a Lightning wallet, you can actually use it. You can use 1/10 of it comfortably, and you can use it any time of the day to make a very quick transaction. For me, from the very beginning, Bitcoin has been about enabling use cases in the financial services industry that really, really help those who are underbanked and unbanked and who live in places where the currency systems and the payments and the banking systems simply do not serve them, cannot serve, don't want to serve, politically limited, whatever the reason is. Lightning pushes us closer to that model. Right now, people say, you can't use Bitcoin for the unbanked. That's ridiculous. The fees are too high. Yes, and that's exactly why we need exchanges to support Lightning withdrawals, especially in places where the daily cost of living is much, much lower.
So I fully agree with you on that, actually. When I was in late 2008 or 9, I tried to help somebody set up a web shop. And they wanted to sell merchandise, and we had to get all this KYC stuff in order to be able to accept payments. And it was a mess, right? It was technologically difficult, and then it was socially difficult, or from the law, I don't know how you would call it. And I think it took us almost a month until we could finally get this web shop running. When I joined the Lightning Network space in 2018, what I did is I downloaded Bitcoin Core. It was very well documented on the GitHub page how to install this. I downloaded the Lightning Network node, I compiled it, and then I set up myself a page. I talked to one developer who opened a channel with me, and I had a small app with 9 lines of code, and I could accept Lightning Network payments. And I was selling questions on my website of what video should I do next, and people could vote with 250 Satoshi, which at that time was 1 cent, right? Just to make the point. Yeah. And I had people pouring in 1 cent worth of payments. So I think I made something like €2 with this website. But it was just amazing, right? It was completely permissionless. It was completely frictionless. And I saw this, and this was my second eye-opening moment, right? The other one was this, like, sending 1 Satoshi back and forth all the time, kind of like in this controlled environment. And the other one was just like, hey, I can set up a web shop like this, right? Yeah. I don't need to talk to anybody. I can just do it. I'm fine. It's unbelievable.
And nowadays it's relatively easy to do something like that using a hosted environment like BTC Pay or even on a Raspberry Pi. So you can do this with lower and lower cost equipment. And in fact, you could have a single Raspberry Pi running 100 shops for 100 different merchants, working very, very comfortably within the constraints of that platform. And €2 a day sounds like, or €2 in a shop in a month sounds like it's pointless. But if you added €2 to a billion people's income around the world, for them it's a huge amount, and it's life-changing. So anyway, I think exchanges being the on-ramps are a very, very important point for introducing Lightning adoption. It also makes it possible for people to earn Bitcoin in ways where they can get rapid conversion from fiat to Bitcoin over a Lightning channel, even for smaller amounts. And I'm not yet paying my employee payroll in Lightning. Nobody has yet asked me to, but I have the ability to do it. So I do have a shop on my website where I sell some stuff, and you can use Lightning to make those payments too. You can also donate with Lightning. So again, this is not the point. The point is it works, and it gives me an opportunity to test the technology and use it. But what that means is I also have a Lightning node that is well maintained, is up most of the time, and has well-funded channels, which means I can theoretically pay my payroll with Lightning. And one of the ideas that I talked about back in 2016 was this concept of streaming money, which is, why are you receiving your paycheck once every 2 weeks or once a month? Why not get paid for your work by the hour? Why not get paid by the minute? Why not have your employer basically stream money to you for every minute that you work? Or if you're salary, it's just every minute of the day prorated to a monthly amount. So you don't have to wait until you get paid to have money that you can spend. It accumulates continuously in a steady stream. This concept of streaming money is obviously, perhaps my fault, one of the reasons that technologies like Lightning Network get overhyped. And it doesn't describe a present, it describes a future that is becoming increasingly close to possible.
But I think Alekos Fellini has already done a proof of concept there.
Yes.
He created some website where you actually paid an invoice every second, and then you would receive another second of video stream. So he was like, hey, you can do this as kind of like a video streaming platform. And he did this on a protocol level, and it was really cool to see. I mean, yeah.
Who did this?
Alekos Fellini, I think.
Yeah, I mean, actually, I think it goes back to Manu in Argentina, who implemented a unidirectional payment channel streaming video. I think it was called something like streamable.io or something like that. And that was as early as 2014, maybe 2015.
Yes, so Alekos did this on the Lightning Network.
Yes, no, this is yes,
right? So,
yes,
yeah.
And Manuel Arauz, Manu, did it in Streamium. Thank you, Nelson. Streamium.io. It was well before the Lightning Network even existed. So yeah, payment channels predate the Lightning Network. The Lightning Network is a standardized implementation for implementing payment channels. Primarily on top of Bitcoin. Here's another thing that most people don't realize, which is that the Lightning Network doesn't only operate on Bitcoin. You could have Lightning payment channels between Litecoin, nodes. Litecoin is one of the ones implemented. Decred is adding Lightning capability or has added Lightning capability. I'm not entirely sure. There are some people talking about adding it to Monero, which would be a game changer, and I'm very, very excited about that. And there are still some problems with creating cross-currency channels. But theoretically, at least, what you can do is you could send a payment from a Bitcoin Lightning node and have it received in Litecoin on a Litecoin node, or send a payment from Monero to Bitcoin. So this is effectively using the Lightning Network as a decentralized exchange that is doing atomic swap-like behavior with routing nodes that are exchanging one cryptocurrency to another. And this is currently possible in a wide variety of cryptocurrencies. It's basically, for one thing, any cryptocurrency that does UTXO and has the ability to do time locks and hash time locks and doesn't have transaction malleability problems. So that's Bitcoin, Litecoin, Decred, Doge, a whole bunch of others, of course. But it's not just limited to that. Theoretically, any system that has the ability to do a time lock, to do a hash-based secret, and can record transactions and hold them for future use, can do this. Theoretically, you could create a Bitcoin to Ethereum, even though it's not a UTXO model, it's completely different. And there are some people working on a smart contract. All right, 405 viewers at the moment. Let's wrap up the conversation about exchanges. Why do you think, René, exchanges are not doing Lightning withdrawals?
So I would assume that maybe one thing is audibility, or their fear of being regulated. Because on-chain they can at least say, hey, this is all where the money flow, whereas with Lightning it's a little bit more tricky. So I could assume that there are just like legal reasons why they are afraid of actually going down this path. Like Bitcoin is somewhat like there already. But let me please use 1 minute to actually talk about a German exchange, because I'm from Germany.
Sure.
Where the situation is actually even more crazy. So in Germany we have different laws, and it was not clear if we need like a banking license to have a Bitcoin exchange. So what the largest German Bitcoin exchange does is it's a marketplace. So it maps people who want to buy and sell Bitcoin, and it holds the Bitcoin in custody. But you don't have like this classical order book and matching engine. People have to basically make those trades directly. And with Lightning, you could so easily be like the custodial, right? So you could have an intermediate exchange between Andreas and me, and the exchange would basically come up with a pre-image and hold the pre-image for us, right? So this would allow the exchange to be the facilitator to create a marketplace, to be the trust provider, but on the same side could not steal the funds and steal the money. It's unbelievable. Lightning and
it's like an escrow. It's like multi-sig escrow. It's a non-custodial escrow, which is fantastic, right?
Yes. So and they couldn't screw up with that, right? So it enables such great possibilities, and I feel we're in a similar space like 2010 when people were like, hey, you could do this on Bitcoin, and then we would not have this custodial risk on Bitcoin. And now I'm saying, hey, we could do that with the pre-images on Lightning, and probably no one is going to do it, but it's crazy, because I think people should actually push this technology.
There are, in all fairness, there are a couple of exchanges that do it. It's very limited at the moment. Someone pointing out in the chat, Bitfinex is one of the exchanges that is doing that. And I think I remember you saying, René, that you tried to implement this dollar cost averaging crazy scheme on Bitfinex, given their Lightning channel withdrawal capability, but they had some artificial limits on the minimum order size and the minimum withdrawal size that made that not possible to implement.
Yeah, exactly. Because they said otherwise they would spam the trading engine, and trading obviously is more important for them, and they don't basically have like an API point of saying, hey, buy at the best price or whatever. But I think meanwhile, on Twitter, I pointed this out again, and I think they have caught up the idea. So I think they want to build something like this. But I mean, I can't speak for Bitfinex, of course. But maybe they will build it as a feature at some point in time.
Very good.
Yeah.
Out of the corner of my eye there, I saw the volume clipping on René's microphone, but I'm not sure if you can hear any distortion. So if you could let me know in the chat if you do hear distortion, I can fix that. But if it's all fine, then I won't bother trying to tweak it anymore. This is what happens when your sound engineer is an amateur like me who doesn't have any of the professional experience. No, everyone's hearing it fine, so that's perfect. Good to know. All right.
I am René.
Yeah, Dot is asking, who is René? This guy right here is René. René Picard, data scientist, one of my co-authors for the book Mastering the Lightning Network for O'Reilly Media that we are currently writing. First 5 chapters are in draft, and you can read them online on GitHub. And that's who René is. All right, let's. Oh, here we go. We've got some actual audio professionals. Hey, the compressor helped, but you need to scoop out some low mids with an EQ. Aim for 350 to 800 hertz. Listen, sir, my quantum combobulator is currently tuned to remove the interference from the Fibonacci sequence above 3 hertz. So, really, are you sure about that? I have no idea, René, I have no idea what I just said, and I have no idea what they're talking about. I think EQ is an equalizer. I remember I had that on my hi-fi when I was a teenager. You had all of these little things, and you mostly made it look like a mountain.
Oh yeah, or like a valley or whatever.
Or right? Like a valley, but mostly a mountain. I didn't... Okay, whatever you say, Mr. Sound Engineer. I think you know what you're talking about. EQ is emotional intelligence. That is definitely cut off from the low to mids for most of the people on this live stream. All right. So what else do we want to talk about before we go to questions? Or do we want to talk about anything, or do you want to just dive into the questions? And
why don't we do a few questions first, and then we can switch back to some topics we're going to talk about.
Yeah, because we're coming up on the first hour complete. Let's go to some questions. Frank M asks, so what is your take on the Lightning Network adoption, now that various implementations have matured? Do you feel there is traction? What do you think, René?
Yeah, so, I mean, it feels like it's being used more, so I can see more routing activity on my Lightning node. But there is certainly not that traction or that attention that Bitcoin has in sometimes mainstream media or something, right? So to some degree, it still feels very, very niche, right?
Well, you don't get any of the speculative activity. There's no trading on Lightning, although there are some Lightning leveraged exchange kind of futures markets, derivatives markets. But you know, Lightning is for retail payments. It's for making small payments. It's for using Bitcoin as a medium of exchange, not as a store of value, not as a speculative vehicle. So that may be one reason.
Yeah, and I mean, I think it's easy within this space to be like, oh yeah, Bitcoin is huge. Everybody talks Bitcoin, but like if you look a little bit outside, many people still just don't care about it. Right, and for many shops, there's not this huge incentive to get Bitcoin accepted because there's also the valuation risk, right? Because price finding hasn't really been completed, right? So, right, so there is this chicken egg problem, I would say, to some degree. But
the same problem that Bitcoin has always had.
Exactly, but my feeling is it's progressing, and what I learned once in my university time is, a technology usually needs 2 generations to grow mature. And I would argue that's still true. I mean, the internet was possible in the 70s.
Yes.
And it pretty much took us until 2000 until we really used it to some degree properly. And well, I mean, we're still getting better and better. So my feeling is similar with Bitcoin and Lightning, right? So it's a road, right? And it can't happen within no time.
Yes, and allow me to translate for those of you who are much younger than René and I. The internet is kind of like Facebook without the fascism. See? All right.
Yeah, it needs developers.
All right. Yeah, the one interesting thing I would add to that is, in terms of Lightning Network adoption, is a really interesting phenomenon that most people don't get. The more people use the Lightning Network, the more invisible it becomes.
Yeah.
Meaning that when people use the Lightning Network, you don't see the growth. The more transactions happen over Lightning, the more transactions effectively disappear from view. So when you see the liquidity and the volume and the things that are happening on the Bitcoin network, that's all the stuff that isn't yet on Lightning. The more things happen on Lightning, the more invisible it becomes. The privacy gets stronger and stronger because the more things that happen on Lightning, the less they happen on the Bitcoin chain, so the less you see them. The other thing to realize is that you can go on these websites and they'll tell you there are currently, 8,000 Lightning nodes that have a total of, 200 Bitcoin in channels. And what you don't see is that there should be a little caveat that says ... that we know of. The Lightning Network allows you to have nodes that do not advertise their presence. It allows you to run nodes between small groups that are completely invisible and do not advertise their presence at all. You might see some of their footprints on the blockchain, but you can't really tell who they are. And you would never see the transactions that they're engaging in. So for example, if there are 3 exchanges or a group of merchants or a bunch of friends who are running a little subset of the Lightning Network with nodes that do not advertise, that only connect to each other, that would be completely invisible. And you wouldn't see it on one of these sites. Well, completely invisible is a big statement. That would be mostly invisible. And you wouldn't even know that these payment channels necessarily existed. The statistics you see here are voluntary disclosures that people make. So for example, there's a website called 1ml.com. Number 1, M for Mike, L for Lima, 1ml.com. And that's a Lightning Explorer. What it's showing you is the public network that nodes are willingly advertising. And I can tell you of the Lightning nodes that I personally run and the Lightning channels that I personally run, only half of them are visible on 1ml. The other half, not visible at all, because I've chosen not to advertise them there. So not everything is visible. And what's interesting, the bigger and more complex and more different uses are happening on the Lightning Network, the less and less of that stuff is visible to the public. So the Lightning Network, if it's successful, eventually disappears. It's the network that becomes invisible. Yeah. All right, let's go to our next question. Anonymous asks, "Hi Andreas and René, I am amidst assembling a Lightning node. Do you recommend any best practices for newbie nodies, particularly concerning data backup?" Well, first of all,
that doesn't sound like a newbie question, to be honest.
Right. First of all, let me say that chapters 4 and 5 of Mastering the Lightning Network are about the various clients that you can use to run nodes, node client, and how to operate a node operations. And we've written those 2 chapters very much in mind with how to help a newbie nodie operator operate their own Lightning node and some of the considerations that go into that based on the experience that we've had running nodes for the last 3 or 4 years. It's not easy. It's still very technical. You have to do a lot of this stuff on the command line, or you have to use some kind of helper application. We talk about that too, that installs it for you on a Raspberry Pi or a Windows machine. Those make it a lot easier. But in terms of data backup, this is currently not a very solved problem in Lightning. Lightning wallets are hot wallets, and you can simply back them up by only backing up your keys like you can with a Bitcoin wallet. And the reason for that is because Lightning wallets create payment channels, and the payment channels are created by multi-sig addresses where one of the keys is yours and one of the keys is that of the other channel partner. So if you don't keep a backup of all of the channels that you've created separately, you have your keys, but you don't have their keys or even their public keys, so you can't really reconstruct the addresses. It becomes much more complicated. So when you're running a Lightning node, you do actually need to back up the data directory that the Lightning node is running on, or use a number of different functions like static channel backups, and these are not foolproof, which is why you can still, if you have a catastrophic loss of your Lightning node, you can lose some money from some channels. It's probably not a good idea to put too much money into a Lightning node or hot wallet at the moment until you gain some experience with that. Would you agree with that, René?
Yeah, so I would agree with that, and I would actually elaborate a little bit on this, because it's to some degree currently a principal problem. Because if you back up your data directory in Lightning, and then let's say you make a backup at 12 o'clock, and your Lightning node runs until 1 o'clock, and in the meantime, your Lightning node had some transactions, and then your machine crashes, and then you play in the old backup, then you will lose all your money.
Yes, it's actually worse. Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
So backups are actually risky.
Yeah. So let's explain what that means. That means that if you replay your backup, but your backup is faulty, meaning that your backup captured an old state and did not capture that's outdated, because Lightning works with a penalty mechanism where if one of the nodes tries to cheat by broadcasting an old commitment, the other node then gets to punish them by taking the balance of the channel. If you accidentally restore from backup and your backup wasn't the latest commitment transaction, your node, without knowing, broadcasts an old state and then triggers the other channel partner to broadcast a penalty and shoot your balance. Oops.
Yes, so yeah, that's the really tricky part with backups. So you need to make sure that you always have the most recent backup. So doing a backup, let's say with a cron job that backups your Lightning node every hour is certainly not sufficient.
Yeah. And
you might be running smart now and say, yeah, I'm going to do it every second. Well, even in a second, something can happen.
No, you need to have some kind of event-driven backup where every time a commitment transaction state changes, a new backup is made.
Yes. And this is a huge thing that Lightning implementations currently do not really support for.
Yes, this is not currently supported. Peter expresses it quite clearly. He says, that sounds pretty crappy. Yes.
Yeah.
Peter.
So there's two things to say to that.
Yeah.
So there's two things to say to that. The first thing is, technically it's possible to do exactly what Andreas said, like an event-driven mechanism. Mm-hmm. And C Lightning at least has an API endpoint so that you can implement this yourself. Another way of doing this is you could have a RAID system, so you have like the backup already when hitting your disk. So there's technical ways of doing this, and I think it's fair for the Lightning Network developers to say, hey, we're working on the protocol and currently not on the implementation details.
The user interface.
It's always the user interface. It's always a little bit tricky for outsiders to understand these differences. I have to say, when I joined the space, I certainly did not understand them.
Yeah, Nelson asks a follow-up in the chat. He says, static channel backups are safe though, right? No, Nelson, they're not. That's exactly what we're talking about. Static channel backups are actually dangerous if you do them wrong. But for that, check out the node operations chapter in the book. We explicitly talk about that. Keep in mind, the operating a node and using a Lightning wallet today is still experimental technology. The protocol is in flux, the user interfaces are rough and not ready, and so you have to treat it as a petty cash hot wallet. I Got Worm says static channel backups is good, but closes channels. Yes, it does close channels, but it also can accidentally broadcast an all commitment transaction and lead to loss of money. All right.
It signals to your channel partner that something is wrong.
Yeah.
So it's not secure to that degree. It involves a little bit of trust.
Yeah.
But that being said, so to the first point, there's certainly more need for more developers, and that sometimes might also be a funding problem, right?
Yeah.
That companies say, hey, we're developing the protocol and we can't afford another developer who solves or works on these kinds of issues. Another thing that I should say about backups is there's actually a better way that we know to create payment channels called L2 channels. That is currently not being used by the Lightning Network because it needs a tiny upgrade on the Bitcoin protocol. But once we have that, backups become much simpler and much more secure. And that's probably one of the reasons why people are not really working on that feature right now.
Yeah.
Because everybody assumes that this upgrade will come to Bitcoin eventually.
L2 channels are much better in a number of different ways, and they represent, it's part of the idea here that the Lightning Network is not finished baking. It will get upgraded. Channel formats will change. In fact, recently there have been quite a few proposals on how to dynamically update a channel that's already open without closing it from one format, for example, pre-L2 to another, such as L2, which is fascinating. Just so you know, L2 is spelled ELTOO. And in order to implement it, you require a change, which is BIP 118. It's the any prevout or sig hash no input as it was known before, which is the ability to rebound inputs to a new transaction. All right, let's go to the next question. Now, this is one of the best questions in the chat. Someone called Andreas asks, René, will you please explain just in time? Okay, this is a ringer question. I asked it. I'm serving you a softball. Will you please explain just in time routing, René?
Yeah, so the problem with routing on the Lightning Network is that once you ask peers to forward your payment, it could happen that on that channel where they're supposed to forward the payment, they don't have enough balance. And then usually what the node would do is it would fail the payment and you would have to select a different path and try again. And what just-in-time routing does is it allows the node to say, hey, I don't have enough balance on that channel, but I can do a rebalance operation. I can send a circular onion and I can provide myself with enough liquidity just in time so that I can forward the payment. And
now, let me understand this for a second. So what you're saying is you had balance. Somebody tried to use your channel as a path. Since that time, you no longer have sufficient balance, or something changed in the balance that you had. Now, you don't have enough balance on that channel to actually fulfill their payment request, or HTLC as it's called. But you don't want to cancel it, right? You don't want to fail that payment. Instead, what you're going to do is you're going to say, okay, hold on a second. I'm not going to forward this yet. I'm just going to hold on. And really, it is a second, right? You probably don't need more than a couple seconds. And what you do is you make a circular payment where you pay yourself out on one channel through the Lightning Network to another round of hosts back in through a different channel in order to shift.
The channel that is asked to forward the payment.
Back through the channel that you need to rebalance. So you send money out another channel to yourself in a path that brings balance over to your side of the channel on the channel you need to route. And then as soon as you do that, now you have enough balance and then you can forward out on that channel.
Yeah. So the first thing that we can note about just-in-time routing is that it increases the success rate of payments, right? So that is a good thing. But there's actually one thing that is much cooler about just-in-time routing that I did not know at the time of inventing it. Took me almost a year to figure this out. And that is, it increases the privacy on the Lightning Network drastically. So what has been shown in the past, not only by researchers like me, but also by other people, is that you can actually very easily find out how much balance is on the channel. Right, you just try to send money along that channel, and at a certain amount, the money can't be forwarded, and then you know, hey, he doesn't have more money, right? And you can do this in a structural way to get the exact amount.
Yeah, what you talked about, probing, right?
Yeah, it's balance probing, exactly. So, and we wrote a paper about this, where we explained how to do that. So the fun thing is here, when you have JIT routing activated and somebody tries to probe you and you don't have enough balance, well, you rebalance and you're always able to fulfill the onion. So nobody can probe your channel balance. So this is really crazy. This is really good. So it's a really good protection against these probing attacks on the Lightning Network, which would intrude your privacy.
Well, so since we've been talking about some rather technical topics here, let's stay on that track and ask an equally technical question from Becker. What if my channel is empty because I feed so many chickens at polofeed.com? How can I top up my channel? This is not an advertisement for polofeed.com. These are not real chickens, but this is a funny little demo app, right? It's a Lightning app that allows you to feed these virtual chickens by sending very, very small payments, like Satoshi level payments. What do you do? So what you do, Becker, is you arrange for someone to pay you over Lightning so that you bring some more balance over to your side of the channel. You could potentially use, oh, they're real chickens? I didn't know they were real
chickens. Yeah,
oh.
I think, yeah.
I thought
I thought you meant the chickens in the question.
Oh, the chickens in the questions are definitely virtual.
Yeah, so I think the chickens on Polio Field are real chickens, yes.
Okay, well, I apologize to the owners of Polio Feed for my defamatory and slanderous accusation that their chickens are not real. They are real chickens. You cannot rebalance your channels by feeding them, but you might need to rebalance your channels in order to feed them. All right, we've got another question from Becker. How is Lightning Network better for privacy? You want to take this one, René?
Yeah, I think we kind of discussed it already in the beginning, but I mean, we can emphasize on this again. So we don't see all transactions on chain anymore, right? So that increases the privacy. Yeah. So,
oh, an interesting follow-up question from Nelson. Nelson asks, do you use, could you use JIT routing inside the JIT routing payment to rebalance itself? I mean, of course, like when you're trying to do the circular payment to yourself, somebody else could need to do a JIT routing rebalancing for their channels in order to make it happen, which would then trigger another JIT within the JIT.
Yes.
In fact, a whole cascade of rebalances all across the network.
And that's actually one of the problems with JIT routing, because usually we have the time locks in the HTLCs, and when we cascade this, we basically have the problem that the JIT rebalancing could take more time than the actual payment if something goes wrong. So there are also issues with that. But I mean, like a regular payment, something can go wrong, right? But these are like the technical, like, as I said before, it's always easy to have an idea and say on a conceptual level, we already know how to do this, and then comes the engineering. And then, yeah, we're going to have fun.
I want to point out that we're talking about some rather controversial topics here. A lot of people have some misconceptions about Lightning. Other people have high expectations about Lightning. Other people have misconceptions and low expectations about Bitcoin. And in all of this, I didn't think that the most controversial topic we would discuss today is whether the chickens on Pollo feed are real or not. But I expect
the best audience.
Yeah, I know. I expect we're going to be receiving chicken death threats in the comments on the YouTube by outraged chicken protection activists from the Chicken Liberation Front who will be screaming in the comments. All right, so next question comes from René, not this René. Running a Lightning node is easy and a great way of minimizing trust, but it's hard to get inbounds liquidity. Are there any common practices for that? Now, this is a really good question. It's a very common problem people have. So first of all, let's explain what inbound liquidity is. So when you have a payment channel, the payment channel, unlike on the Bitcoin system, has two balances, a local balance and a remote. And payment channels today are funded only on one side, meaning that when you open a channel from your node out, you fund the payment channel. And when someone opens a channel from their node to your node, they fund the channel, which means that an outbound channel from your node out that you opened will have all of the balance local on your side and no balance remote on the other side. Well, in such a situation where all of the balance is local and there's no remote balance, you can send a Lightning payment out from that channel, but you can't receive a Lightning payment in because there's no balance on the other side to move to your side. Of course, if you do send a balance out, if you do send a payment out, then effectively you've rebalanced the channel because you've put some of the balance on the other side, which now means that someone can pay you a similar amount in. An inbound channel or inbound liquidity is where in order to get paid to your Lightning wallet, it's not enough to just open channels from your Lightning wallet to other people. Other people need to open channels to your Lightning wallet. Not necessarily the person paying you. It could be someone else who's well connected. You don't have to have a direct payment channel between two wallets in order to make a payment. Otherwise, the Lightning Network would be kind of pointless. As long as there is a set of payment channels that connect two nodes, you can make a payment. But you do have to have balance on the other side of one or more of the channels into your wallet in order to receive an inbound payment. And how do you get that when you've just started? I'm just going to do a bit of advertising. This is also a topic we cover in the node operations chapter of the book because it is a very common problem that node operators or wallet users have in the beginning. So the way you solve this is, there are several ways to solve this. One is to open an outbound channel and then go buy something. And now some of that balance is on the other side. So if you open a channel and then you go buy a gift card from, I don't know, bitrefill.com, or you buy a t-shirt from my shop or something like that, now there's balance on the other side. So at least for the price of that t-shirt or gift card or whatever you spent, other people can pay you back up to that amount. Another way is to pay someone to open a channel to you, or maybe ask them nicely. If you have a friend who has the same problem, well, if they open a channel to you and they have inbound capacity, then you've solved that problem. If you just open channels to each other, you haven't really solved that problem because there's no inbound capacity to the cluster of you two. So you haven't solved the problem, but you have made it possible to send payments back and forth. And finally, there are a bunch of services out there. And I've listed those in the node operations chapter. And you pay a small percentage of the total amount, depending on how long you want inbound capacity to open to you. This is a good way to bootstrap in the beginning. Once you're bootstrapped and once you start using Lightning, very quickly the number of channels that you use and other people use and the payments going back and forth creates an environment where you actually can start receiving payments.
I would also argue that this problem is a little bit artificial. I mean, it is a problem, but it is also a little bit artificial, because what you can always do is, when you don't have the Lightning Network, you can receive Bitcoins on chain.
Mm-hmm.
So let's say Andreas wanted to pay something to me. He could do an on-chain transaction. Well, another type of on-chain transaction that he could do is he could open a channel with me and then pay me on the Lightning Network. Now I have inbound capacity from Andreas, right? So what I'm saying is it always basically boils down to an on-chain transaction that you would do anyway.
Right.
So in that sense, you could basically wait until you want to get paid for the first time. And whoever wants to pay you first time, they open a channel with you. Why do they open a channel with you? They try to route a payment to you. Well, you didn't have a channel that has inbound capacity, they need to open a new channel.
And that's also another reason why getting more exchanges onto the Lightning Network is important, because that's another way a lot of people would have inbound capacity. It would be because they did a withdrawal from an exchange, or a deposit to an exchange,
or mining pools.
Or mining pools. That's a great.
It's unbelievable that pools do not do Lightning payouts. This would make so much sense. Why do I have to wait on the pool to wait until I mined like so many Satoshis? Why can't I mine for 1 minute and get 1 Satoshi paid out?
Yeah, exactly. Absolutely. All right. Shall we do more questions, or should we do the Kahoot? What do you think?
I think we should jump into the Kahoot.
We should jump into the Kahoot. All right. Let's see. All right, so this is the Kahoot code, people. This Kahoot code allows you to join our game. Kahoot is a game that we will play, and that game will allow us to all play together. We've never done this before, so it may not work. There are currently 27 players registered for the game. We're going to give it a few minutes because there's more people joining. Go to kahoot.it or load the Kahoot app on iOS or Android, and you can play too. It is a pub-style quiz game, and we have just 9 slots, 8 slots, 7 slots left. 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Oh, I thought we had a limit of 50 players. There are currently 57.
Maybe you can't start the Kahoot then anymore? Let's see.
Oh, I can start the Kahoot. Now we have 63. I do not understand how this works. We thought we had
so let's wait a little bit what happens.
Yeah, let's see if more people join, since people are still joining. I don't know if everybody can play. Now we have 71 players. This is ridiculous. I did not expect this. I was worried that we would have a problem because everybody would try to join the Kahoot and then people would be disappointed. Listen, you can play anyway, right? This is not about scorekeeping. This is about having fun together and learning something. Boy, do I sound like a dad or a teacher. It's like, listen, children, this is not about winning. This is about learning together. Of course, it's about winning.
Can't you show the screen where people are joining?
Yeah, I can, probably. Let's see. There we go. So this is 83. All right. It's a good thing that it actually allowed us. I don't know if everybody will be able to play.
Yeah, let's see what happens.
We'll see. It might only allow the first 50 out of the total number of players. And we're going to start this in just a few minutes.
So let me check if the music is on the live stream. Or maybe the chat can say if they hear the crazy Kahoot music.
No, there's no music right now because I have turned it down.
Oh.
But I will demonstrate right now.
So while everybody is joining, I have to say,
now
the
there's
first
music.
time I saw. So the game is about the Lightning Network because people are playing, and I think I created the game and then Andreas improved it a little bit. And I have to say, the first time I saw Kahoot was actually in 2019 when Andreas invited me over to Denver to talk at the blockchain training conference. And I thought, hey, this is a funny thing. And you know, now I'm employed at the Norwegian Technical University. And I realized a guy in my department actually invented Kahoot. And it's a multi-million-dollar business nowadays. It's basically a learning app for schools. And he composed all the music. And Andreas already in the testing found the music quite annoying, but I think when you actually play it, it's actually pretty cool to have the music. And he wrote some research papers that without the music, the people don't learn that much.
Well, there's definitely music happening now. Now we have one more thing for people to complain about in the comments.
Yeah, they say the music is so loud they hardly hear me.
I turned it down a bit.
Okay, perfect.
I did turn it down, and it's not going to continue forever. Okay, I'm going to turn it down even more.
So I'm the only one not listening to music. Too bad.
You're the only one who can't hear the music. We've got 106 players right now. Oh boy.
Oh, then I don't know.
Okay. Now, let me give you a bit of information about this. We're going to start it in just a second. 1 second. Let me turn the sound off because otherwise you won't be able to hear me start this in just a second. Sorry, I have to keep switching windows here. This is not easy. Shush. Very good. Yeah. So the first question we have is a test practice question. What happens is you will see the question come up on screen on the YouTube stream. As soon as you see the question, your app will also give you some answer options, but you won't see the answers on the app or the browser page where you are participating in the Kahoot. You will see them on the YouTube stream. You'll see the question, you'll see the possible answers, and they're color-coded. So you might see a red triangle, a green rhombus, a blue star, or whatever. So you have to pick the color and shape that matches the correct answer and hit that on the device you are playing with. Most of the questions are single answer. Some of the questions, there is more than one correct answer, and you get the same amount of points no matter which one you pick. And there's a countdown timer. The faster you answer, the more points you get. But if you get it wrong, then you get no points. So you have to balance speed with accuracy. There are also, I think, 2 multiple answer choices. Now, be careful with these. They will show up as a multiple answer choice, and you will see that unlike all of the other answers where you simply select the answer you want, with a multiple answer you select all of the answers that you think are right, and then you have to hit submit. It doesn't automatically submit for you, so you may end up getting no points because you forgot to hit the submit button at the bottom. That's only for multiple answer questions. The first one is a practice question. It has 0 points and it has 2-minute timeout, and that will allow us to all learn how to play Kahoot together. Is everybody ready?
One thing to say.
Okay, no, we're not.
Sometimes it makes sense not to optimize for speed because you also get multiple points if you have an answer strike.
Yes, and
so the more answers in a row you answer correctly, the more points you get. So if you already have 5 answers correctly in a row, the next one you're not sure, it's better to think about it than answer it quickly and destroy
there's a streak bonus.
Yes.
Like a kill streak in CSGO or whatever.
So the more answers you have in a row, the more points you get.
Okay, and keep in mind, except for, I think, one question that is a bit tricky. There are no trick questions. There are no trick questions and trick answers. Don't overthink it. Don't try to parse the answers. If it seems like the choice is relatively obvious, and these are not difficult questions for the most part. We're not trying to trick you. We're trying to have a conversation and learn something. then just answer it. You know, don't try to overanalyze. There is one trick question. Let's do this. Okay, enough talking, more kahooting. Wow, this is pretty cool.
Yeah, Andreas, I told you, you can't make so much time.
Well, no, this is the practice question. I didn't know there were so many people playing. We were expecting it to top out at 50, apparently.
Yeah, it's really cool. It's really, really cool.
and now we have to wait a minute and a half.
Yes.
Until everybody who has signed up to play.
So this is very similar to the Lightning Network. It's kind of like a DOS attack, right? You just don't answer and everybody has to wait. It's like not following a payment and wait for HTLC timeout.
Well, ironically, I'm going to turn the volume down a bit. Yes, these questions do not automatically proceed until everybody has answered, unless I hit skip. Also, by the way, Lightning Network is not spelled that way. So the red answer, don't worry, it's not a trick question. It's just a stupid typo. So I'm ready to skip this question. Are you ready to skip this question, René? Is everybody ready to go to some real questions? The next ones are timed. We can by hitting skip, which is what I just did, and then we can come on screen and have a conversation about what. Okay, it did. Oh, yes, it did. Okay, everybody, give me a second, please. Okay, how about now?
I have to say something.
Yes, there we go. It's working now. Sorry, I didn't have a sound source in this scene. All right, so what we see is 113 correct questions, correct answers. 6 people who picked Lying Nakamoto as the name of LN, 1 Latency Never, and 1 Lovely Nerds. And so that's how Kahoot works, and we are ready. We are ready to go. Sorry, I keep switching windows here. This is taking a bit longer than I expected.
I really love how quick the answers are flowing, and this is so cool.
It's so much fun. 14 seconds, hurry up everybody. Okay, we do want a bit of drama with the music, that helps. And so we have 67 people picked Satoshi as the currency unit of Lightning. I guess that was more of a trick question than I thought. Bitcoin is correct, because in general the currency is Bitcoin. The unit itself is actually milli Satoshi. Only 9 people got that absolutely correct. Lightning uses fractional values of a Satoshi divided by 1,000 in order to give us even more granularity. And of course, Lightning coin is incorrect, but something that you will hear detractors say. Here we go. This is the leaderboard. And I keep getting confused about which view is which. There we go. That's the leaderboard. I have to keep switching browsers. Sorry about that. Very good. Congratulations to those of you who answered both quickly and correctly.
Should we read the questions?
To pay someone in the Lightning Network, you must have a channel connecting to them. True or false? This one was a rapid fire question. False is the correct answer. You do not need to have a channel connecting to the destination of your payment. You can pay via a series of payment channels between you and others that eventually lead to your destination. You don't need to have a direct channel to everybody you want to pay.
Oh, that was too quick. Now we didn't see the leaderboard, but next question we can do that.
The Lightning Network can be used to scale the usage of.
I see Andreas is starting to like the music. I would love to hear it. Oh, finally.
Excellent. People got this very well. Bitcoin, of course, but also cryptocurrencies that have specific capabilities that can do time locks, that can do that don't have transaction malleability issues, that can resolve hashes.
So now the main question is, did people get this correct because they learned it in your stream right now, or did they knew it before?
Well, I mean, that's okay. You can learn it at any point in time.
Sure.
Oh, look at it. Satsman is the highest climber, up 99 places, and our leader is still EE. René, are you playing in the background as EE?
No, I'm not playing in the background.
Okay.
I considered doing that, but I decided not to.
Okay. Listen, the following people are not allowed to play this. Me, René, Lalo Stocken, Christian Decker, Joseph Boone, Satoshi Nakamoto, and Tad Stryja. You are not allowed to play if you invented or are currently working on this technology. True or false? To make a payment on the Lightning Network, the sender must find a path of payment channels to the recipient. The sender must find a path of payment channels to the recipient.
Yes, I'm going to read the next question. we have to mix that up. You already get the bounty of the music. Yeah, 50-50 chance, that's true. Oh, people want me to show my hands in the camera to see that I'm not playing. No, I get it. Yeah, I can do that.
Yes, the sender must find a path of payment channels to the recipient. This is called source routing, and is the mechanism that is currently used. It's not the only possible way to do routing on the Lightning Network, but because it gives us some privacy advantages as well as other advantages, it is currently what is used in the Lightning Network. The sender constructs a path, in fact, several paths, and then keeps trying them until they succeed. All right, this is going well. I'm very excited.
And people are already praising us for the questions. So, yeah, this is cool.
True
so I'm showing my
false?
Hands. Each intermediary Lightning node chooses which channel to forward a payment through.
Show hands. Show hands.
Show of hands. I'm not playing this.
We did play it several times over the past couple of days.
We played it.
Just to make sure it worked. It's working better than I expected. Each intermediary Lightning node chooses which channel to forward a payment through. The correct answer is false. It's not the intermediary lightning nodes. It's the same as the question we just answered, which is it is the source that decides which channels things get forwarded to in advance by creating the entire path from source to destination by adding channels together. The source is responsible for finding that path. The source specifies that path. And one of the reasons the intermediary nodes don't get to choose which channel to forward the payment on is because they don't know where it's going. They have no idea who the final destination is, so they have no way of deciding what channels might work to get to that destination. They receive a path, they simply follow the instructions of that path, and that path is defined by the sender. So that's the answer.
No, I have to say those people who have answered true might have thought about LND, because in LND, if you have parallel channels, the node can actually switch the channel if it's the same destination.
If you have two channels to the same peer,
yes,
and one has been selected, but the other one also goes in the same direction, yes, but that's a very narrow kind of answer.
And that's not really like part of the protocol. I mean, LND is just like allowing that.
Okay, people, you have to up your game because EE is currently winning this. 8 players have now reached an answer streak of 4. Question number 7.
Yet. So this is a multi-select. Remember, after you make your selection, you have to click submit, otherwise you lose your streak or anything.
To receive a lightning payment, you must.
Oh yeah, that's a tricky one.
By the way, you can't just play this by picking all of the answers.
Yeah, so we see that the submissions are coming in much slower. Nice.
You must have an open channel to receive a lightning payment. You must have sufficient remote balance. Well, we're talking about the inbound liquidity. You must be online. There's a little asterisk on that with some circumstances, but not a trick question. And you do not need to pay a fee. Senders pay fees in Lightning just like they do in Bitcoin, not recipients. This is not some kind of crappy cell phone business from the 1990s where you have to pay to receive a call. We stopped doing that. All right. That was question number 8. 7 players have reached answer streak 5. EE is still winning this game. Let's see.
I wonder who EE is. I have a feeling. Why is onion routing being used on the Lightning Network? Oh, so people are actually reading the questions. The answers are not flowing in so quickly.
Yes.
Which is good. I mean, it's long answers. You can tell which questions come from me when you see the long answers.
Why is onion routing being used on the Lightning Network? To increase the privacy of sender and recipient. The onion routing is where each hop through the network is encrypted so that only the node intended for that hop gets to see it. And all they can see is where it came from and where it's going. Their immediate neighbors, they can't see the original source and final destination of a payment. They only see which channel it's coming in from, which channel it's going out on, and that's all the information they have. And this obviously creates, this is, by the way, the same thing that's used in Tor. Tor, the onion routing network, uses onion routing. So the onion router uses onion routing, and the Lightning Network uses onion routing. Not the exact same. It uses a protocol called Sphinx, which is a slight variation of the protocol used in Tor. But again, it's a mechanism for privacy. This is going pretty well. I think people are actually doing very well with these questions. Oh, this race is going to be tough, but some catching up.
A lot of things can change. A lot of things can change.
This is worth 2 points.
Really? Did you make this a 2-point question?
It's a double points question because it's a harder question and a more
So
technical question.
Let's hope that E got really distracted. Somebody in the chat asked E to be distracted.
All right.
How many people got this? How many
On
people
the
got this?
Lightning Network, payments fail if the size of the HTLC exceeds the balance of a channel along the path is the correct answer, the blue answer. 46
Whoa,
people got
46.
that correct. Very, very
Wow,
good
that's
job.
pretty good.
And
8 people were discussing Bitcoin blocks. Funny. Yes, we get a new leaderboard.
EE has been unseated. Oh, I like 7 drachma. Drachma was the currency of Greece before joining the European Union. Is it biased if I back 7 drachma for win or no? Just because?
I don't know. I think he actually answered not on this on purpose.
Oh, maybe. Yes, that is quite.
To the audience.
That is quite possible. Okay. Pixel 2 is the highest climber, up 33 places. True or false? If we split the payment into multiple parts, they all have to go along the same route.
Andreas, I really like that you agreed to do the KAHOOT. I think it's really a fun thing.
False. Payments that are split into multiple parts do not go along the same path. And this is the reason we
They do not have to. I mean, they can.
They can. But for the most part, you don't want them going along the same path. Primarily because
by splitting them.
If it's the exact same path, what's the point? In fact, what you're doing is you're increasing all of the overheads. And most people got this one.
The base fee several times.
Yeah. So the whole point of splitting payments in multi-parts is so those payments can be multi-path. That's why the technology is called multi-path payments or atomic multi-path. All right. I hope you're having as much fun as I am. By the way, not only was this René's idea, but René did a lot of work coming up with these questions, and it's just some of the great educational material that René is providing. And if you really like what René is doing, René has a Patreon, patreon.com/René Picard. And you can go and contribute as little as $1 a month to help René with his pure education mission. All of the work he does is open source, available for free, and he makes it available and will appreciate your support in his educational mission. All of that information is also right below in the video description. You can find it in case you can't spell René Picard, which I recently discovered I can't, and I forgot the H. Patreon.com/René Picard with an H. Make sure you spell it right. All right.
You can also find it. You can also find it below my YouTube videos. I mean, usually I link it there.
Let's do this. Question 11, true or false? Payment attempts leak information about channel balances.
I'm excited about this one. I actually like the fact that when you discuss if the answer is right or wrong, Andreas, that we can't see the result yet because our images are there. It kind of creates even more tension.
Yes, it is true. Payment attempts leak information about channel balances. And René talked about that during the live stream with an attack called probing, where you make a payment attempt, perhaps even a circular one that you don't intend to fulfill, and you keep increasing the amount to see when it stops getting through a specific channel, and then you know you've reached the limit of that channel, which means you know what the balance is. So that's called channel probing. And let's see how many people got this right. Oh, this one was tough. The majority of people got this right. Got this wrong. Payment attempts, in fact, do leak. I wonder if this has changed the leaderboard again.
Well, this must have changed the leaderboard.
It's yeah. These are not.
Yeah,
these are not easy. These are not easy questions. Menches West is making a comeback with 3 in a row. True or false? Bigger payments have a higher success probability. I might do KAHOOTs on more live streams. I'm telling you, this is quite addictive and it's a lot of fun. People seem to be enjoying it. My producer,
it's also a lot of work to prepare.
Yeah, my producer in the background and my camera operator are both bopping to the music. The crew is liking this. Bigger payments have a higher success probability is false. In fact, one of the early criticisms of the Lightning Network was a paper that said, the Lightning Network does not work for big payments. It should have been titled, the Lightning Network, which was designed to enable small payments on a network that already handles big payments, cannot do big payments, well, big da. But that wasn't the title they chose. Most people got this. Great job. Great job.
Oh, we really have a camera problem. I'm holding up 2 thumbs and nobody can see it. But I will do it afterwards again.
True or false? Lightning wallets are hot wallets. This is only 10 seconds. Hurry up, everyone.
Oh, yeah, that's tricky.
It was an easy question, so that's why I made it short. You have to race for that one. Lightning wallets are hot wallets. And the correct answer is true. 70 out of 80 got it. There's not much to discuss there. Yes, Lightning wallets are hot wallets. What does that mean? I guess we could discuss it. Hot wallets because the keys are held by the software that is online. They cannot be cold wallets. Some people were asking in the chat, why are there no Lightning hardware wallets? And the reason is because Lightning is a real-time online protocol, meaning that your node or wallet needs to be able to sign commitment transactions for routing. It needs to be able to sign transactions for funding and closing channels. And it needs to be able to manage keys for HTLCs, all of which requires the keys to be online in the hands of the software that's running your Lightning node at all times. So it's either a custodial wallet where somebody else has the keys and you have a lightweight interface. I generally don't prefer those, but there are a few custodial Lightning wallets. Or it's a non-custodial wallet where you're running a Lightning wallet with the keys and a rudimentary node. And in that case, it is a hot wallet. Okay, let's progress. Things are getting hard. 14. Rebalancing channels can be done via
Andreas, do you think I should make the game a little bit more difficult by confusing the audience when the questions and the answer possibilities are there?
I mean, listen, I think it's already hard, honestly.
Oh, yeah, I think so too. I agree.
A lot of questions only get about 2/3 of the audience or maybe half the audience answering.
Yeah, but that shows actually how important it is that we're writing the book.
Yeah.
We need to get that knowledge out.
So rebalancing channels can be done via a circular payment or an atomic swap. Both of those answers are correct. And in fact, we see that most people got a circular payment that we talked about. And an atomic swap was also a correct answer. A SegWit transaction, you know, strictly speaking, you can rebalance a channel by doing a SegWit transaction by effectively closing the channel and then reopening a channel, but then you're not rebalancing the channel. You're just
it's a new channel. It gets a new short channel ID.
And the Gothic protocol is kind of involved, but again, as I've said before, don't overthink this. We're not trying to trick you. By the way, if you're having a delay, in the where'd it go? If you're having a delay in your YouTube stream, and as a result, by the time you see the question, there's only a few seconds left, and it's not really working for you, and you are playing the worst game of Kahoot entirely through no fault of your own, due to the pernicious impact of the Illuminati having taken over YouTube and trying to mess with your Kahoot game, refresh your browser, so that you can, and I think if you click on the live icon, it will progress the stream to the very most recent frame. We are streaming this at ultra low latency, otherwise this game really wouldn't work. By the time you saw the question, it would already be out of time. But still, if you're having some latency, this is not a fun game to play. Try refreshing your YouTube stream. Okay, let's look at the leaderboard.
He revealed on the chat that he or she is from Australia. That could actually also reveal why there's a lot of points in the beginning.
Yes. And I promise you 7 drachma isn't me playing on my laptop. Because 7 drachma is now the leader. Combo breaker, 4 players just dropped their answer streak of 4 with that last question. It broke the streak. Oof.
So he says no, he or she's not rusty.
Question 15, true or false? The Lightning Network is the only possible scaling solution. Let's see.
That's almost like how should I say, common sense question, right?
Is it? Or are you a shitcoiner?
I mean, I was saying this after basically all the answers were already in, but I mean, this is so obvious.
False. The Lightning Network is not the only possible scaling solution, and 113 of you got the answer correct. Now, what other scaling solutions are there? Well, obviously, bigger blocks. I mean, that is a scaling solution. It's a matter of how much of a price do you pay for decentralization. But with the Lightning Network and bigger blocks, you might actually get a multiplier effect. I'm not entirely opposed to making blocks slightly bigger.
Yeah, but that's more like better performance, not really scaling. Scaling means that you can drastically increase. So I don't know. Right. So scaling is about... I know what you're saying, right? So yes, of course we could make blocks bigger, and maybe that happens, but it's
Listen, I'm just trying to make sure that if I am getting hateful comments in the YouTube channel, it's not about the chickens, but it's about something substantive, like the big block debate. Yes, what other scaling solutions? Optimizations of signatures with things like Schnorr signatures, optimizations of scripts with TapScript and Taproot. All of those are actually also scaling solutions, and they feed on each other. So those scaling solutions make even Lightning payments more efficient and make channel opening and closing transactions smaller, which means you can do more with Lightning. So it's not about one silver bullet here. It's about lots of different solutions working together. But you all knew that. Well, at least 113 of you did.
There's also side chains, and one thing that I think gets underestimated, custodial services in general are also some form of scaling the technology, right? Also not in the best way, similar how big blocks would not be the best way, but I mean, they're scaling.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. All right, next question. Double points on this question. HTLC stands for...
I love this one. So I guess we have 90% correct on this one.
Yeah.
You already see it, right?
90%. Well,
it's not 90%, but 90 answers.
90 answers. How good.
Not
Yes.
90%.
Hash time-locked contract. But I did make all of these plausible. I mean, heterogeneous transitive logarithm cryptography is definitely not a thing. But it could be. It could be.
It sounds at least cryptographic.
It sounds broadly cryptographic. And it's the kind of really crappy acronym that an engineer would design, of which we have plenty in our industry. So, yeah. Go 7 drachma. Make the Greeks proud. 17 questions. To prevent cheating, Lightning wallets can get help from...
We should have put the answer Andreas and René in.
Can get help from Andreas on Twitter.
Yeah, exactly.
I already get enough.
Thanks
like people,
that.
yeah, people contact me and they say, "I have a channel with you that's stuck. Can you close it for me?" Because, yeah. So
yeah, that's almost something that you have to fulfill, right?
Very good. Watchtowers is the correct answer. Watchdogs was close, but not. Oracles are something that mostly operates in Ethereum, but in a way, watchtowers are kind of Oracle. And referees is a great...
Let's talk about that.
Yes.
So referees is actually, I mean, I would not have selected this as a correct answer, but there is actually a referee on the Lightning Network.
Yes, indeed. Who is the referee?
Bitcoin blockchain.
That's the Bitcoin blockchain. If you have a dispute,
yes.
Your transaction goes to the judge and jury of the Bitcoin blockchain. And
the miners, and they're going to settle it because the contract was defined in code, and there's no doubt about how to read it.
Right.
And there's your referee, right? So
sending a commitment or penalty transaction to the Bitcoin blockchain is how you get your referee. Although that wasn't a correct answer in this particular case. All right. Let's see. Oh, the king is dead. Long live the king. King sing.
King is back.
I also like that Vim88 is making a comeback with 3 in a row. But the real question is, Vim88, can you exit?
Will this be enough?
You got me. Colon, WQ, my friends. All right. That's a very inside joke.
I'm actually surprised that people chose like reasonable nicknames and not like crazy stuff. So you can't receive a Lightning payment if you have no inbound channels. True or false? Andreas, how are you coping with the music nowadays?
Oh, I'm getting used to it now. I like kind of the arcade 1980s aesthetic of it.
I think when you really play it, it's actually really like getting a vibe.
You can't receive a Lightning payment if you have no inbound channels.
The only kind of trick question, if you ask me.
It feels a bit like a trick question now that I think of it, and so my apologies to 37 of you who felt tricked. That was not my intention. What I should have said is if you have no inbound capacity. But yeah, all right. Oh no, I killed the king. With that trick question.
Well, it's not.
Question
it's not
19 for double points. Lightning needed SegWit because of.
That's a good one.
This might be a new kingmaker. Or
This
queenmaker.
definitely might be new.
Or it might be what makes Rasputin king.
At least it's one of the more technical questions.
It is a more technical question. And it's not a trick question, but it is a bit more technical and it's got double points.
So show the results before we discuss them, please. All right.
Not
so what
bad.
I wonder is if 69 people can actually explain what transaction mainability is and why we needed it to be fixed in the Lightning Network.
I doubt it. It took me quite a while to figure out that.
So that was
I actually had a T-shirt in 2013. I had a T-shirt made which said on the front, "What the fuck, transaction malleability?" That's when that's when Empty Gox was brought down by transaction malleability attacks. Yeah, do you want to try explaining it quickly? Why?
Well, actually, people on the chat are quite good. So one person is like raise his hand, and another person says it's because it can't chain unconfirmed transactions, and that's exactly the reason.
Yes.
But maybe for those people who don't understand this, we elaborate what this means. So when you open a payment channel, you send Bitcoin to a 2 out of 2 multisig. So let's say I open a payment channel with Andreas. Andreas has a public key. I have a public key. And we send Bitcoin to that address. And now we have to make sure, I have to make sure that if Andreas stops talking to me, I get reimbursed. So I need a refund transaction.
Right, because it's a 2 of 2 multisig. So if I disappear, you only have one of the 2 signatures, not enough to get the money back.
Not enough to get the money back. Yes, exactly. Not even a single Satoshi.
And I could blackmail you. I could be like, listen, that's it. I'm walking away.
Which you would never do.
Which I would never do. But that's a type of attack that is envisioned in these types of systems.
Yes, exactly. So what we do is that we create a transaction that spends from the funding transaction and sends the money back to me. And only if I see that transaction and if I have access to that transaction, I will publish the funding transaction. And this is what was meant.
We both sign the refund transaction before you even sign the funding transaction. And that guarantees that you know you've got your exit already planned before you get into the contract. By the way, good advice in business too. Always have the exit planned before you sign the contract, or have the exit in the contract. So why is transaction malleability a problem? Well, the refund transaction spends the outputs created by the funding transaction and therefore contains its transaction ID and is bound to that transaction ID. If there was transaction malleability, the attacker could basically malleate the funding transaction and broadcast it while you're still holding it, and invalidate the refund transaction before you even have a chance. And that would...
So may I just add one tiny technical detail? Because I think there was this tiny error here.
Oh yeah, for
sure. So you said that the funding transaction is not signed. Like you don't sign the funding transaction before you get the refund transaction. But that's not true. Because the exact thing is, you need the signature on the funding transaction to compute the transaction hash.
Oh, right, yes.
And you spend from that transaction hash. It is signed, you just don't publish it.
Yes,
because mainability is exactly what you do, is you modify the signature in a way that it's still a valid signature, and this also changes the transaction hash.
Very good.
Right?
Yes,
so,
excellent, excellent explanation. Let's move on, because we have 5 more questions, and we're already
over time.
2 hours and 10 minutes into this, and people are like, WTF Kahootiers, can we finish this damn game?
E is back.
E is coming back! Look at that.
with a double points question. Awesome. And E promised this.
True or false? Nodes can censor Lightning payments based on sender or recipient. All right. Any one of you got it correct. The correct answer is false. The intermediate censors, intermediary nodes cannot censor Lightning payments based on sender or recipient. They don't know who the sender and recipient is. That's the whole reason for the onion routing, and that means that prior restraint censorship of transactions on the Lightning network.
I love Dowd Parker on the chat who says 37 people explain yourselves, because honestly, maybe these 37 people know something that we both don't know.
Yes, indeed.
I mean, to the best of our knowledge, right? But maybe they can.
All right, let's see what's happening here. Whoa, things are getting tight at the top.
Oh yes, very tight. Especially place 2 and 3 is very close.
True or false? A Lightning private channel is completely invisible to anyone except the 2 endpoints. A Lightning private channel.
So thanks, Andreas, for showing the Patreon.
Oh, you're very welcome.
It's already people signed up. So thanks to those people who now became Patreons. That's really, really cool and helpful. There were people before actually saying that they were missing my videos, and one reason is that the Patreon thing didn't work, and I had to work on the book, and you know, it's just like it's work. You know it. I mean, you do many videos every week.
Yeah, it is work for sure. All right. False is the correct answer. And this was not a trick question, but it is a subtle point. This tripped up 81 people. A Lightning private channel is completely invisible to anyone except the 2 endpoints. Let's explain why this is not the case. In fact, in the book, we have under the glossary as well as in chapters 3, 4, and 5 explanations of this very, very important point. And we say, a private channel is a misnomer, and we call them unannounced channels. And the reason is that even though the channel is private and unannounced, you are still leaving footprints behind. The existence of the channel is known to everyone because its funding transaction is broadcast onto the Bitcoin blockchain, and its closing transaction is also eventually broadcast onto the Bitcoin blockchain. Also, when people are using that private channel to complete a route, they may be told about it in so-called routing hints, meaning that as part of, hey, you can pay me and here's a channel you didn't know about, an unannounced channel that you should include in your path, that routing hint can be embedded in an invoice. And that means that a sender who constructs that path, who is not the endpoint of the channel, knows about that channel because they see it in the routing hint. So it's important to realize that just because we call it a private channel doesn't mean that in fact it is completely private. And
so I should say that I opened an issue on the Lightning RFC about this, and it's issue 675. And you can look it up, the discussion there. I didn't discover this. I'm answering a lot of questions.
Wait, you opened an issue to have it renamed from private channel to unannounced channel or something?
No, what I opened an issue is I said the short channel ID of channels should be random for private channels, so that when you see the short channel ID in the invoice, you can't look up the funding transaction on the blockchain. Because short channel...
Great point.
Right? So the short channel ID specifies UTXO on the blockchain. And when I see an invoice like this, I'm like, yep, now I know how big the channel is, and I know the Bitcoin address is related to that channel. I know everything. Thank you. Right? It's a private channel, and all that information leaks. So yes.
That's a much more useful issue. When you said I opened an issue on the RFC, I thought that your issue was going to be one of those, actually, a private channel isn't really private, which isn't helpful at all.
So it's funny, I opened that issue over 1 year ago, and it's still not fixed. Rusty was very quick to actually draft something in the RFC and the pull request, and then it became a huge discussion, and people were like, yeah, it's tricky, it's complicated, and currently it's kind of like burrowed. So, yeah. As before, technology always has its subtleties. 3
questions to go. Let's do this. We can finish before the half hour.
Oh, yeah. There was a change in rankings.
Oof.
Yeah.
Question 22 for double points. BOLT stands for...
I wonder how this will turn out. That's, to be honest, the only question that I actually answered wrong.
Yes, in our practice session, people, René answered this one incorrectly. And in fact, it is one of those things that I really enjoy pointing out to people in a super pedantic way. They're like, BOLT means basics of lightning technology. And I'm like, actually, oof. Oh no. Oh no, wow. This one destroyed the rankings. I bet.
Oh my gosh.
Oh no.
Oh my gosh, but so many people chose the yellow one, the Bitcoin over Lightning technology.
Which is, I mean, it's pretty good, right? Bitcoin over Lightning technology. It's awesome. Like voice over IP.
Hey, maybe we should open another pull request and say rename the bolts to Bitcoin over Lightning.
Yeah. Okay, so what are the bolts? The bolts are a series of specifications. So on the internet, we have RFCs. In Bitcoin, we have BIPs, BIPs, Bitcoin Improvement Proposals. In Lightning, the interoperability standards and specifications, which you can find at lightning-RFC on GitHub, are basis, not basics. Everybody thinks it's basics. Well, most people think it's basics. It's basis, as in the foundation, the basis of Lightning technology. And these are highly technical documents that describe not just what everything is, but exactly how it works, and are the basis for interoperability testing and interoperability work between the 3 or 4 major Lightning clients that exist out there. Lightning is a very heterogeneous development environment, or at least much more heterogeneous than Bitcoin. There are clients written in Go, in C, in Rust, and in Scala. And so they all interoperate, more or less, based on the specifications and the basis of Lightning technology documents. Okay, are you ready to see how the rankings worked?
Actually funny.
I think some people are currently cursing both your name and my name, René. Ooh.
V for Vendetta. Okay. I don't know if that was the reason for the name.
3 players just dropped their answer streak. Yeah, and I bet they did. All right. And I think we are down to the last 2 questions, and the last one is just a poll. So it's really, this is the last question that you can get points on. People, this is the last question you can get points on.
Oh, that means we have a winner, actually.
The faster you answer
double question
correctly, the better your chance of winning this. This could make or break it. Go. The Lightning Network white paper was written by
So that's actually Googleable in the short time, if you want to try.
I only said it for, I think, 10 seconds, didn't I? Or 20 seconds? All right, 28 people. That's a pretty broad distribution. That's a pretty broad distribution. Joseph Poon and Taj Raja wrote the Lightning Network paper in 2015, was it? Although a lot of the other names you will recognize from the Bitcoin community, from core developers, from developers in Lightning. Laulu Oshtaken, of course, is our co-author for the book, the CTO of Lightning Labs. And Laulu and Christian Decker have actually written papers together about various forms of channel construction. Christian Decker is one of the most prolific minds in the Lightning Network space. Peter Wool and Gregory Maxwell are well-known veteran core developers and recognized as some of the most skilled people in Bitcoin Core. Vladimir Vandelan and Matt Corallo. Vladimir Vandelan is the maintainer of Bitcoin Core, and Matt Corallo has done an enormous amount of work, including not least on Bitcoin relay protocols between miners and a number of other networking related infrastructure in Bitcoin. So some very well-known names and prolific developers here. All right, let's see what that did to the leaderboard. Oh, it's not showing the leaderboard because you first have to answer, how much fun was this game? Okay, you get no points, but there is clearly only one correct answer here. All you can do is hurt our feelings, and I would not recommend that.
Andreas, I can't see it.
I know.
Oh, percentages.
Very good. 3% said, yuck, what a waste of time. 6% said, meh, it was okay. 17% said, good, I learned something. And 73% said, great, lots of fun and learning. And the correct answer, of course, was, yuck, what a waste of time. And
everybody lost their winning streaks and points.
Is everybody happy to go see the final results? Let's see. Here comes the podium. In third position, Senf with 18,000 points. In second position, 7 drachma. And our winner in first position, Americus. Wow, congratulations, congratulations. What a fun game that was. Thank you all for participating. Let's celebrate those winners. They get nothing. They get nothing.
Oh, they get
they get the satisfaction and applause from René and me. A job well done. That was not an easy quiz. There was lots of changes in the leaderboard, but I think we all learned something and had fun. Thank you all for participating. We will not be doing any more answers to your questions because we're already half an hour late. 2.5 hour live stream. What is this, you people? Come on, this is ridiculous. 2.5 hour live stream. René, thank you so much.
I'm dying, and we had so much more topics to prepare to talk about: funding of developers, funding of content, funding of writing books, stuff like this.
Well, we should do another round. We'll do this again. We'll do this again, and we'll do it in a number of combinations. Maybe I can do 3 screens side by side. Maybe we'll invite Laulu. Maybe we'll invite Satoshi Nakamoto to join us next time. Who knows?
Only condition is next time I have to also listen to music in the KAHOOT. It was really boring for me to actually.
Yes, indeed. So after the book launches, how about a second round? That was a recommendation coming from the chat. Thank you. We will take that into consideration. René, thank you so much for helping me make this so much fun. Thank you for all your work on the KAHOOT. All right, coming up next week on this YouTube channel, we have our monthly open topic live stream. This is the October monthly live stream. Don't forget to join and ask questions on the Slido. We will be answering all your questions. This is an open topic monthly live stream, which means you can ask any questions you want, and I can choose to answer only the ones I like, because that's how it works. Keep in mind that if you are a Patreon subscriber or a YouTube member, you get access to the Slido. In fact, our Patreon subscribers have already had access to the Slido for a week or more now, and our YouTube members will get access to the Slido on the day of the live stream, a couple of hours before we start, and that's our open topic live stream next Saturday around the same time. In 2 weeks, we have a special celebration, Tales from the Crypto. Tales from the Crypto to celebrate an American traditional holiday, my favorite holiday, Halloween. And we're going to be doing scary tales from the crypto space. I'm going to have 3 very, very special guests on that show, soon to be announced. We're going to be reminiscing about the scary things that have happened in the crypto space all the way back since about 2012. Which I think is as far back as our collective memory goes. We're going to be talking about that. There's going to be some fun times. And who knows, we might even do a KAHOOT. So don't forget, this work we're doing is voluntary, unpaid work. It's free, it's royalty-free, it's ad-free, it's open source, and for that we depend on your donations, contributions, and support. René has a Patreon, patreon.com/René Picard. You'll find the information in the description of the video. Please consider helping René in the work that he does, not only the work on the book, but also work like the educational resources he produces and videos. I'm also on Patreon. There's a number of great benefits to being a patron. You get early access to videos, to question forums, and some behind-the-scenes content. And of course, that's what supports not just my work, but also the entire team it takes to produce quality content, and to do so every single week. So please consider doing that. You can also subscribe on YouTube and become a member, where you get a whole bunch of really cool custom emojis that are incredibly silly. You can demonstrate to your fellow chat members on YouTube now with an emoji storm. And right now,
how many videos have you by now created about Bitcoin?
550 or so videos. Yeah, too many. Subscribe.
Really busy.
Subscribe to this channel. If you like this video, like it. If you didn't like it twice. And don't forget to share it. This was one of the most fun things I've done in a long while. René, thank you. And see you all next week. Bye-bye, everyone. Have a wonderful weekend.
Thanks for inviting me.
You're very, very welcome. Take care, everyone. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.